Alonso's not getting on with it. Only a minute 40 to go. Is he blocking Hamilton here? I think there will be some stern words between the two of them. That is extraordinary.
Amid recriminations, accusations and confusion, one man kept his cool. He may have been a guilty party on the Saturday, but on Sunday he was a star. Lewis Hamilton emerged from the chaos to win the Hungarian Grand Prix. And now 3 weeks on, it seems that McLaren's shattered team spirit has been rebuilt.
We are competing between us. We are in a very tough championship, and these things are not normal, but these things happen.
Just said, look, I apologise for everything that went on this last week, the weekend before, and he said, yeah, the same for me. Let's just start a clean slate and move on.
And it needs to be rebuilt because Ferrari and Felipe Massa are on pole position for this Turkish Grand Prix. But it was so nearly Hamilton.
How's he done in the final sector? Is it enough for pole? Yes, it's provisional pole. Can he make it stick?
Massa takes pole.
Massa goes through.
Lewis Hamilton, World Championship leader, is ahead of Raikkonen and ahead of Alonso as the Istanbul Park gets ready to host its third Turkish Grand Prix. And it promises to be one of the best.
So welcome to round 12 of this Formula One World Championship. It's extremely hot, it's a tough, demanding circuit, but after a 3-week break, everyone here is desperately keen to get into the last 6 races that will decide this fascinating World Championship season. None more so than McLaren, who are desperate to put the events of the Hungarian Grand Prix firmly behind them. And at the moment, at least, Mark Blundell, it looks as if they're succeeding.
I think they are, Steve. I think they've had a tough couple of weeks, and obviously Hungary is something they want to forget about. But I think the team has got a lot of strength, a lot of depth. Ron Dennis, Martin Whitmarsh, both doing a great job in trying to control what's gone on there.
And Lewis Hamilton has kept his cool. He was terrific in qualifying yesterday.
He was indeed. And, again, we see Hamilton just stepping up to the plate. We have to remember time and time again that he's a rookie still, but, he's leading the World Championship and he's certainly a contender for pulling it all off.
Anthony Davidson also had an outstanding qualifying performance, but we have to report more frustration for Jenson Button and Honda. An engine change, he starts from the back today.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Jenson Button. He could well start from the pit lane, may start from the back of the grid, but, it's a situation that Honda are really a little bit too familiar with all season long.
Well, the last time Jenson took an engine penalty, he went on to win the race, and this is a circuit that encourages attack. It offers overtaking opportunities, but it is so tough in the heat that we have here today. And the physical demands of Formula One, well, that's a bit of a theme of our race build-up during the course of the next hour or so.
Martin Brundle plus some space-age graphics gives us a vivid insight into the actual physical demands of driving a modern Formula One car.
Under heavy braking, my lungs want to hit the inside of my ribcage.
And Lewis Hamilton gives us an idea of the sweat that's involved in getting ready for the challenge and becoming the fittest man on the grid. It needs to be combined with the competitive instinct, which, as we all know, is such a part of life at McLaren.
Yes, we'll be looking at all the McLaren issues, including the making of that very timely television commercial. And Lewis Hamilton offers some thoughts on a number of topics, including the intrusions into his private life, which he fears may force him to leave the country before too long.
The more and more they keep doing that and bullying me with the paparazzi and this stuff in the papers, it's going to just drive me out of the country, and it's getting harder and harder for me to stay in the UK as it is. But it'll just force me out. I need to have to go somewhere where I don't get abused, and if that's the case, then it'll be a shame.
And we'll also talk to pole position man Felipe Massa, a year on from taking his first Formula One victory here at this Turkish Grand Prix. But both he and teammate Kimi Raikkonen need starring performances today if they're going to continue to challenge in this year's championship. Both those Ferrari drivers need a strong result this afternoon. It's Hamilton leading Alonso by 7 points, and James Allen reports on another good day for Hamilton as he takes us through yesterday's qualifying.
Well, after the dramas at the Budapest, this was a much more straightforward qualifying session, but no less of a nail-biter. Any one of the top 4 cars could have taken pole position here. A few surprises early on. Ralf Schumacher in a much improved Toyota failed to get a lap out of it. He's down in 16th place on the grid. One of the heroes, though, was undoubtedly Anthony Davidson in the Super Aguri. He missed out on getting into the top 10 by just a tenth of a second. Absolutely perfect into the final part of the lap, and he is 11th on the grid. Just 0.2 of a second separated the top 4 then going into the pole position shootout. Lewis Hamilton looked good. He knew he needed to find some time though.
in the last sector.
In the event, he found half a second to put himself on provisional pole position, but right behind him on the racetrack was Ferrari's Felipe Massa. He went 4/100ths of a second faster to snatch pole position for the second year in a row here in Istanbul. Massa's Ferrari teammate Kimi Raikkonen made this mistake in the final complex. That put him third on the grid, while Fernando Alonso gambled on the harder of the two Bridgestone tyres. It didn't pay off for him, and he's fourth. Massa's pole then, his fifth of this 2007 season, makes him the most successful qualifier of the year.
For sure I'm starting in the front, and it's always better to start in the front, but it will be not easy to win tomorrow, but I'm really looking forward. I think we have a good car, good strategy, and looking forward to be in the front again tomorrow.
I was thinking, shoot, it's now or never. So on the outlap I was thinking, okay, how am I going to do this, where am I going to find time? And I was obviously told where I was losing time, and I corrected it. And it's not easy to do that, but sometimes it really works.
We knew that we're going to have a stronger car than we had in the last race, and that's what happened. But I know that McLaren has been usually quite strong here, so not really surprised that they are so good.
I crossed the line with 2 seconds spare, so it was a little bit stressful final lap. So I think the lap was not 100%.
Let's take a look at the grid then for the third Turkish Grand Prix. Felipe Massa started from pole last year and won it. Can he do the same again? Hamilton's right where he wants to be alongside. Raikkonen starts from the clean side of the track. That could be crucial. Alonso is in fourth. The two BMWs set identical times at one point. Eventually Kubica got in front of Heidfeld. It's Kovalainen and Rosberg making up row 4. We've got two Italians on row 5. Jarno Trulli ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella. Anthony Davidson missed out on the top 10 by a whisker. He's got Webber for company. Then it's David Coulthard and Alex Wirtz on row 7. Row 8, Tony Oliuzzi in the Toro Rosso and Ralf Schumacher disappointing in the Toyota. Takuma Sato and Sebastian Vettel make up row 9. The Spikers for once are not at the back. Sutil and Yamamoto are ahead of Button and Barrichello, both of whom had to take 10-place penalties for an engine change.
What surprised you most about qualifying yesterday, and how important is it for Lewis to be on that front row?
What surprised me more than anything was actually Massa putting a lap together, because throughout the weekend he hadn't been quite as quick as the other guys there, the top 4 guys normally, and it was such a smooth lap, so much precision involved, and it really came together for him. Alonso, I think, made a little bit of an error. I think going out in the hard tyres, that cost him dearly, and that could prove to be, a big thing for him in the race.
And he also didn't produce the lap that he required. That was a contrast to the way he performed at the climax of that qualifying session in Hungary, for example.
Yeah, definitely so. It just seems that now and again, when the pressure really mounts, Alonso just cracks slightly, and that's something that we've been, not used to seeing, Steve, over the last couple of years, and definitely it has to be because of what's going on with his teammate Hamilton.
Well, certainly Lewis Hamilton took a great deal of pleasure from the lap he produced that put him on the front row, but maybe not quite as much pleasure as he got from his GP2 drive here in Turkey exactly a year ago. It has to go down as one of the outstanding drives in any category of motorsport last season.
Oh, Hamilton spun! I believe he's down in 21st or 22nd place now. So look at Hamilton as he tries to fight his way back through the field. Hamilton going around the outside. Here comes Hamilton up the inside of Adrian Valles. That's passed for 14th place. Hamilton's up the inside. Monfordini has to give way. It's another place for Hamilton. There is Pereira, who squeezes him right up against the pit wall. You can just tell, can't you, from the body language, the way the car is sitting, he's going to try something. You know he's going to try something. And here we go, down the inside of Lopez. What a beautiful pass. Here's Hamilton. He's 2 seconds a lap faster than Hernandez in front of him. And that is candy from a baby. We're getting closer and closer. And here we go, up the inside. Piquet tries to resist. No way, Jose. Hamilton is through into third place. Beautiful pass by Hamilton. This is the last lap of the race. Here comes Hamilton. Is he going to try it or isn't he? Oh, he is going to try it for second place. What an amazing pass. And look how happy he is. And quite right too. He hasn't won this race, but that was an absolutely spellbinding performance.
I know last year was a great race, but I don't plan on spinning and going to the back and doing it all over again. I just need to score good points. So starting on the dirt side of the grid, I need to just get as many points as I can, but just keep it cool. The weather's great out here. I'm loving it, and we're just really, really enjoying it.
Weather is actually very, very hot out here, but he's in a fantastic frame of mind. But how relevant is that GP2 performance last year compared to what he's got to do this afternoon in a Formula One car?
Well, you know, I hope he doesn't have to do nowhere near the amount of overtaking, because that was, you know, GP2 race brought upon the fact that he made a mistake, but he cut through the field. What it does give him is, you know, advantages to know where he can overtake in this circuit, but primarily I think it's only going to be for back markers, Steve, nothing else other than.
He's aware as he looks at the last 6 races of the season that he has to get the maximum out of the circuits that he knows well. This one, Monza, Spa as well, because the last 3 in the schedule he doesn't know at all.
He doesn't know the circuits, but he doesn't know a couple of the circuits that we've been to at the beginning of this calendar, and he turned up, done a great job, not forgetting that he sits in a simulator. They go through every Grand Prix beforehand, before they get here, and pretty much he's got it in his mind already. He's one of the best prepared drivers out there.
He's on what they call the dirty side of the grid. What exactly does that mean, and what should be his tactic at the start?
Well, basically because he's on that dirty side, that's where the cars don't run normally down the pit straight, and there's not much rubber laid down there. It's very, very dirty indeed, and so there shouldn't be as much grip, and it should hinder him getting off the line. But he's got to try and get into turn 1 in front of Massa to try and see if he can do this Grand Prix.
OK, we'll take a break, and then as we continue our build-up to this Turkish Grand Prix, we'll hear from pole position man Felipe Massa and also look at how they're rebuilding team spirit at McLaren. That's in a couple of minutes. And over the next couple of months, that Rugby World Cup will be building to its climax at the same time as this Formula One Championship season. 2 huge events on ITV Sport. British Formula One hopes, of course, firmly behind Lewis Hamilton, who lines up on the front row of the grid for this Turkish Grand Prix. But you have to be impressed by Ferrari's Felipe Massa, who has taken pole position a year on from his first Formula One win here in Turkey. He's a high-class performer, and he proved it once again in qualifying yesterday. Watched by Martin Brun.
The Istanbul Park for the 3rd Turkish Grand Prix. 3.3 miles, bumpy and undulating. A great challenge for the drivers. Run anti-clockwise, 6 right-hand bends, 8 left. Let's go on board with Felipe Massa in the Ferrari. He's looking for his 2nd consecutive Turkish pole position. Pit straight 650 metres long. Still enough time to do 190 miles an hour before braking 60 metres before the first corner. Now he's had a steady outlap to try to preserve these soft tyres, so they've given him plenty of grip at the end of the lap. Approaching turn 370 miles an hour, brake heavily, down 3 shifts. Turn 4 is immediately ahead of us, another shift down. Now we're cascading down the hill to 5. Still we can't really let the car go. Now we can. Up to 170 miles an hour. Coax it to the left-hand side, plant it firmly at the foot of the hill for turn 7. Still the front of the car sliding slightly wide. He's having to jockey the car through the exit. The legendary turn 8 is just over this crest. Let's watch him in at 180 miles an hour. Still flat out through the 2nd apex, list for the 3rd. Now the engine is singing on full throttle through the exit. Absolutely perfect. Down the hill for turn 9. Braking very late, but bring the nose in and keep it in, because 10 follows immediately. Climbing the hill now. We're going to move up to 19,000 revs in 7th gear. 200 miles an hour. After this kink, we'll bring the car gently to the right-hand side for the hairpin of turn 12. Braking 95 metres before the corner. We'll bring it down to just 58 miles an hour. Get it in for a late apex. Very slow through the final part, but you can lose so much time around here. He's on the power early. The traction control squaring the car up beautifully on the exit. That was spot on.
Absolutely fantastic. Well done, mate. Brilliant lap. First sector, absolutely fantastic. Stunning. Good lad.
We knew we had a great car during the whole weekend, but just managed to put every single corner together and not exaggerate, not be so aggressive, but not be below the limit as well. So it was a great lap.
Felipe took pole position here in Istanbul last year and on race day celebrated his inaugural win after 66 Grand Prix.
Felipe Massa wins the Turkish Grand Prix, his first victory.
It's a great place to come back, especially when you see that you had your first victory here and your first pole position. So it was a very important moment in my career. After the first victory, I think I became even stronger, with the victory, and it helps me a lot as a driver.
The Turkish race marked the start of a strong phase for Felipe last year. With 28 points from the last 5 races, he was only narrowly outscored by his illustrious teammate Michael Schumacher. 2007 started well with victories in Bahrain and Spain, but there have been a few tough times.
Some moments that we couldn't do a lot, some moments that we were not lucky, some moments that we had reliability problems, but the mood is there, and we need to keep our head up and knows that you have a great car, you are competitive, and things can go very well.
Massa's currently lying 4th in the championship, just 1 point behind Kimi Raikkonen, but 21 points adrift of Lewis Hamilton. So does he see Lewis as the man to beat?
I think it's difficult to really say, okay, this guy is the most tough one. I think we have four drivers which can win whatever race, and these 4 drivers has the chance for sure. The driver who is in front has more chance, but we never know. The championship is still long, and we need to try to do our best to be me.
And Felipe Massa has impressed a lot of people this season, not least here at Ferrari, but you have to feel, Mark, that unless he produces a strong result this afternoon, he's out of the championship battle.
Definitely so. I feel he has to win this race and has to start winning other races after this to make sure he does contend for the World Championship. But, you know, Massa, I think, is a driver who's come on in the last few seasons, no end, and his style slightly changed. He's a lot smoother, and I do feel that he's missing Michael Schumacher from this team. I think he looked to him for direction and some strength, and I think he's lacking in that now with Kimi Raikkonen as his teammate.
And in a way, Ferrari would no doubt welcome the opportunity over the course of the last 5 races to put their weight firmly behind one or the other, probably Kimi Raikkonen.
Well, I think after this event, we have to see whether Massa can pull off the win. But if he doesn't, I think I'll have to go with Kimi Raikkonen. If he's the stronger option to try and get the World Championship title for the drivers, they've still got the constructors title to worry about, and they need both cars to keep scoring big amounts of points to do so.
But it is Ferrari on pole position this afternoon with Felipe Massa. What about the race speed you expect from Ferrari in comparison to McLaren?
Over the course of the weekend, been watching the McLarens and the Ferraris, and they've both been strong, but the Ferrari looks a little bit better on the longer runs, so the consistency's there, and that we would feel maybe we're playing to the hands of Massa and Raikkonen today.
Well, as we head into the climax of the season, Ferrari would no doubt welcome any kind of instability within the McLaren ranks. We've still got the spying scandal ongoing, of course. That's gone to appeal. But McLaren now have to sort out all the internal problems that were so evident at the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Ted Kravitz reports now on how they're trying to repair the damage.
Fernando Alonso's deliberate blocking of Lewis Hamilton in Hungary was bad enough, but Lewis was also to blame for deliberately disobeying Ron Dennis's instructions. Both drivers' actions cost McLaren 15 valuable constructors' points. Civil relations were just about maintained before Lewis let his body language do the talking. Here in Turkey, McLaren held a 6.5-hour clear-the-air meeting at the beginning of the weekend. Alonso says he'll stay with McLaren while they're still winning, and Lewis was happy to kiss and make up.
Coming to the meeting, I felt really fresh and relaxed. Got a good tan from holiday, and I discussed my opinion and his opinions, and it was really good. We set things straight. As I said, turned over a new leaf. It was the same for me and Fernando. We met up at the hotel here on Thursday and had a really good chat, and just said, look, the stuff that the press is saying is not true. I'm not at war with you. Obviously, I'm here to beat you, and the same for you. And he said, it's the same for me. I said, but I have no issues with you, and he said the same.
We are a team. We are not, under any circumstances, going to deviate away from our values of equality, and that will, we'll try and put more strenuous effort into ensuring that we achieve that objective. I am comfortable to be judged by anybody in respect of our genuine commitment to parity.
The team has issued a statement talking about the fact that both the drivers have equality and the same opportunity of winning. Is that the impression that you were given when you joined the team, or were you sort of led to believe that as a world champion that would inevitably give you superiority over a guy who's, let's face it, a rookie still?
No, I think that is always very clear in any team, to have equal opportunities to everybody and to have equal car to your teammate. What I think sometimes and what I ask to the team is that I gave to the team a lot. When I arrived in December, I remember the car I drove. I remember the results they have in 2006, and now I brought to the team half a second, 6/10, whatever, and I don't see anything giving me back. So that's the only thing.
I understand obviously what he said, and he's definitely contributed hugely to the team since he has come. But let's not forget that we have, nearly 1,000 people back at the factory working day and night trying to improve the car. So, it's a lot of people. And so, if he's found 6/10, then what have they found? It's really through their work, through, we've done the test driving, me and Pedro de la Rosa and Fernando. we've been working as hard. You know, they make improvements, we test them out. So it's really a team thing. It's not one individual that's found all that time.
I think Fernando's immensely competitive and looking for any competitive advantage, and we as a team believe in being absolutely fair and equitable, and you know, we expect everyone in the team to contribute, otherwise they shouldn't be there, should they? And he's certainly bringing a lot. He's a great driver.
Antonio Lobato is a reporter for Telecinco Spanish television. Antonio, I'm curious to know, what's the perception of people back in Spain about the events in Hungary?
Well, you must imagine, no? The point of view of Spanish people is perhaps not the same of English people, because they are supporting Fernando very much, you know. They didn't like so much what happened in Hungary, because at the start of the qualifying in Hungary, everybody thought that Fernando was guilty of doing something very dirty, but at the end everybody discovered that not only Fernando could do something dirty. If we look before, Hamilton was a rebel and did not allow Fernando passing in the first laps of the Q3. So everybody knows that both drivers are very competitive, very aggressive, but in Spain everybody is supporting Fernando because they know that he's Spanish and they are really in love with him. And Hamilton now is a big rival and is not very famous in Spain. He's famous, but in Spain they know it's a dangerous driver because he's very strong and could be a strong rival in the next years.
So who's got it right, the Spanish or the British, or is it somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between, but you know, I'm a little bit bemused by the comment that Alonso made with regards to 0.6 of a second. I find it quite difficult to understand. And McLaren employed the guy to exactly do that job, come along and bring his talents. And it's a little bit difficult for him to walk into the back of the garage and face all the mechanics and everybody back at the factory who've done all the hard work. You know, yes, Alonso's done a great job, but so have 999 other people back at McLaren. So interesting for a driver to do that, Steve. You know, it takes a lot of guts in some ways, but I'm not sure it's the right way to go about it.
And Lewis, by contrast, seems to be saying all the right things. Do you think he's emerged from everything that happened in Hungary with a stronger position within the team, Lewis?
I think in some ways that he's emerged as now being looked at slightly different, because all of a sudden, you know, the rookie is getting left behind and the World Championship contender is getting noted for all the right reasons what world champions do, and they do it in a way with rigidness and style. Maybe he made a little bit of an error and a bit of misjudgment, but I think it's come back to him and I think he'll get respected for it in the long run.
OK, Ted Kravitz can now look at other news around this Turkish Grand Prix, and it's been another bad weekend, I'm afraid, for Jenson Button and everyone at Honda.
To add to their current woes, Honda have had to change both Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello's engines after qualifying. The engines were new on Saturday morning and had only done around 30 laps, so the resulting penalties look like making today's race another to forget for the team.
I'm starting last or pit lane, so you know, it's not that exciting. Sometimes can be starting at the back. You can have some fun coming through, but for us it's even going to be difficult getting past the spikers, so we've just got to see what we can do and hopefully have a good start, and we've still got to discuss the strategy. There's so many different opportunities and ideas, but it's going to be a tough race.
David Coulthard's weekend has been no less eventful. A fuel leak caused a fiery exit from practice, and the lost track time has meant Red Bull have struggled to get the most from the car.
Can't really complain so much about the balance. You know, we found a good compromise between touching the ground through 8 and being quick there, and basically what we have for the rest of the track. So it's a little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer, not a fundamental problem.
BMW have confirmed Robert Kubica and Nick Heidfeld for 2008. Rumour was they were waiting to see if Alonso was going to leave McLaren before they committed themselves to their current drivers.
I was pretty confident, but of course it's good to have it officially now. But you know, we have to concentrate still on this season. There are 6 remaining races, and it's a lot of work still to do.
The speed of progress we show is amazing. The team is just 1.5 years old, and most likely this year we will finish third in the Constructors' Championship. And obviously we hope to do even better.
Still on driver moves, Toro Rosso will replace Tonio Liuzzi with Frenchman Sébastien Bourdais next year, putting him alongside namesake Sebastian Vettel. And finally, at a lavish party on board Indian sponsor Vijay Mallya's boat moored in the Bosphorus last night, Bernie Ecclestone confirmed that Formula One is closer than ever to an Indian Grand Prix.
Well, I've been trying to put a race there for a long time. With VJ and I've been talking for 20-odd years. So maybe this time we get it going.
Yeah, you think the chances are good?
Very good. Yeah. I think this time we pull it off.
Yes, well, interesting developing markets for Formula One, but a familiar face for many of you, but a different team. Jeff, previously of Honda, now Red Bull. You've watched the season develop. What's your assessment of where the top two are at the sharp end and what's going to happen this afternoon?
Well, I think the top two teams have been pretty evenly balanced. Interesting race here this afternoon. It's pretty hot, it's pretty tough on the drivers. In terms of reliability, I'm not expecting to see the two top teams really suffering any problems. I think probably we can see an extension of qualifying into the race. I think that's the order.
Tough on the drivers. Many of them are going to have that little padding to rest their necks against the G-force.
Well, it's an opposite sense circuit, and turn 8 is a very long, sustained left-hand corner, so the drivers need a little bit more help. I think we may start to see some drivers making mistakes. It is going to be quite physically tough on them. So maybe that'll give us a little bit more help from where we are on the grid.
Okay, and things going well at your new team, Red Bull? I bet you're glad you're not at Honda with the problems they've got starting at the back of the grid today.
Well, I'm very happy here at Red Bull. It's a very interesting challenge. It's a good team. There's a lot of potential here. We've got a lot of work to do between now and 2008, but I'm sure we can do it.
Okay, good stuff. Good luck, and back to you, Steve.
Thanks very much. We'll give you one more reminder of the Drivers' Championship, which underlines the importance of this race, especially from the point of view of Kimi Raikkonen and Felipe Massa, who are in danger of losing touch with the two McLaren drivers. Hamilton leads Alonso by 7 points after that win in Hungary. The Constructors' Championship, a little less clear-cut, with McLaren going to appeal to try to claim back the Constructors' points they scored in Hungary. But at the moment, at least, Ferrari have closed the gap to 19 points. McLaren will be looking for the maximum team contribution from their drivers today. And remember, we'll be hearing from Lewis Hamilton, not so much on driving issues, but of all the problems of press intrusion into his private life in just a few minutes' time. That's not a problem that affects Britain's Anthony Davidson a little further back down the grid at the moment, at least, but he was absolutely outstanding in qualifying yesterday for Super Aguri, equaling his best ever qualifying performance and just missing out on that pole position shootout.
Qualifying was a bit of an Achilles heel for you earlier in the season. It was an area that the team said you needed to make an improvement, which you've done consistently at the last couple of races. How have you done that?
Well, it was a bit of an unfair comment, I think, because the speed was always there. It's just we were all learning as a team. I was learning as well, and we kept missing out on either doing, a whole run in qualifying. I mean, say like Monaco, I can pick Canada as well. We had a red flag, and I only did one run. Magny-Cours, I missed the last run again because the checker flag came out because we missed the last lap. So all these kind of things build up, and when you're at the back, no one really gives a damn where you are. They just look at the overall result and see that you're right at the bottom. They think, he had a great time in practice, why can't he do it in qualifying? But that was never taken into account, and I felt a little bit aggrieved by that. It was a bit unfair because I knew I had the speed, and places like Magny-Cours, I was on for a good 15th or 14th place, and suddenly I was down in like 18th, 19th. So we've learned as a team, and we've sent the car out at the right time now, and it's all coming together.
You need now to string a whole succession of those together this afternoon. You'll be looking quite sweet.
Yeah, just 58 of them, and it'll be jobs are good.
And how he'd enjoy a top 10 finish this afternoon, but temperatures in the high 30s here at Istanbul Park, and even without the heat, this is one of the most physically demanding circuits on the calendar. And the physical demands of Formula One, well, that's a bit of a theme of the next part of our build-up to this Turkish Grand Prix, in particular through the latest of Martin Brundle's Formula One Insight features.
Although it doesn't always seem that way from the onboard cameras, it's incredibly demanding both physically and mentally to drive a Grand Prix car. That's why Formula One drivers every day of their lives have to train, eat and drink very carefully. You'll remember that we put my body through some of those stresses and strains at Kinetic near Farnborough. First, we pumped up my pulse rate with a solid cardio workout. My muscles were nicely warmed up. Then we applied serious heat, just as the Formula One cockpit does. Next, I dressed up in the regulation 4 layers of fireproof clothing. Now, my body really struggled to tolerate the physical challenges which the drivers constantly experience. Finally, the mysterious G-force had to be applied. a Formula One car generates 5 times the force of gravity during braking and cornering. This invisible force simply soaks up your energy. Despite my 25 years as a professional racing driver, I was still absolutely amazed at the energy involved when they applied only G-force to my body and I wasn't thinking about driving through a corner. Well, amazingly and impressively, Williams Toyota have provided us with the latest FW29. I'm going to jump into it and show you how all of those stresses and strains relate to being behind the wheel and in the cockpit. A Formula One car is a high-speed furnace. There are heat sources all around me, on each corner. A tyre at 100 degrees centigrade. Brakes at a fairly believable 1,000 degrees centigrade. Either side of me, water, oil and fuel radiators. The back of my seat is the front of the fuel tank, and that could run as high as 60 degrees centigrade. And in the cockpit, a lot of electronic control units generating heat. To make it worse, I've got 4 layers of fireproof clothing, just like I had in that test at Kinetic, plus helmet, boots, gloves of course. Worse still, the aerodynamicists don't want a lot of turbulent air coming through this cockpit. They want it going into the air intake for the engine above my head. They want clean air with positive pressure through there for more engine power. So I'm sitting in a void. In all of this heat, you're working very, very hard. It's not a good environment to work in. The 6-point seat belts are pushing me into this custom-made seat, which hurts when I'm sitting in the pits. Otherwise, it wouldn't be tight enough to hold me in place under heavy braking, such as this into Abbey. And also, these belts, along with the hands device, are pushing down hard on the very muscle that has to turn the wheel and hold my head in place through corners such as bridge there. My head just wants to roll off my shoulders. I feel like I'm going into a sumo wrestling match with King Kong. My body is begging me to lift the throttle, to unwind the steering knob, to take away some of the G-force. We know from the latest graphics that Formula One cars generate G-force in acceleration, cornering and braking. They only reach equilibrium at top speed, just before the violence starts all over again. And that G-force is just soaking up my energy. Under heavy braking, my lungs want to hit the inside of my ribcage, and it forces me to exhale even when I don't want to. It's just taking all the life out of my body. So you have heat, extreme physical demands, tremendous call on your brain power too, to manage the engine, the shift, the right racing line. It makes you fully appreciate just why these racing drivers are so fit and so highly paid as they fight over the same piece of tarmac. You realise how hard it is as you sit inside the cockpit, and their ability to fight each other head to head on the racetrack whilst controlling these amazing machines. With my body stretched to the limit and my mind in overdrive, I also had to think about keeping the car online. Of course, the Grand Prix drivers too have to think about racing others into the same corner, challenging over the same piece of tarmac. And also, of course, the race strategy as it unfolds. No wonder they're highly paid and super fit. I hope I've given you a much better feel for for exactly what the challenges are for a Grand Prix driver.
And now just try to translate all that physical torture to this track in Turkey. Temperatures in the upper 30s, track temperatures pushing towards 50, where the infamous turn 8 sees the drivers pulling close on 5G for 6 or 7 seconds on each of the 58 laps. Well, the ITV F1 website, that can bring you further insights into the sport. And it's where you can get in touch with Mark Blundell for his pre-race question mark feature. And the physical side of the sport is the theme for him today as well. Tom Ince from Nottinghamshire has asked us, can you tell us about a driver's training over a typical week? Well, we think Lewis Hamilton's probably the fittest guy down the pit lane, so let's ask him.
We were training at something like 5 hours a day, building up to the first Grand Prix. And during the season, you don't train as much as that because you're racing, which is almost training in itself. And then you just need to maintain it. And I've been very fortunate. I've had a great team behind me on the fitness side, which have helped me making sure that my preparation has been perfect.
Primarily, I'm Lewis's physiotherapist, so I provide massage with him. I make sure he's feeling well, that he hasn't got any aches and pains. I help with his recovery after the races. I'm his personal trainer. I train with him. I prescribe his programs. We go bike riding together, we go to the gym together, we swim together. He asks me what he should be eating, I help him with what he's eating. He comes over for dinner, and I'm also his PA, so I help with day-to-day activities just to make things go a little bit more smoothly.
Well, it's definitely extremely encouraging when you go into a race knowing that you're fitter or probably the fittest driver there. That's got to be the aim. It's definitely, it puts your mind at ease and it gives you room to then just think out the whole weekend and think clearly, and at the end of the day it's extremely stressful, intense, and if you can have one issue out the way, then it makes it a whole lot easier for the weekend to go through.
Well, if you're fit in health, you're also fit in mind, so a Grand Prix driver can take the pressure a lot easier. But we're here in an unusual circuit in Turkey. It's anti-clockwise, extra stress on your neck, heat, humidity. It's a tough one for those Grand Prix drivers. This is where all those hours in the gym really pay off. Yes, and as a result of all that physical dedication, Lewis Hamilton is looking just about the coolest man in the McLaren garage as he arrives here to take his seat in the car and take it out to the front row of this Turkish Grand Prix. And Mark Blundell, you just cannot stint on the physical backup that this sport requires anymore.
And these guys are athletes, there's no two ways about that. Something was interesting, we've been having a chat with some of the guys here, and they actually did try a little bit of padding in their headrest areas to try and prop their neck up, because it is an anti-clockwise circuit. But both of the guys decided not to use it because it's infringement on the neck area. So, you know, they need a tough neck and need a lot of physical fitness to get through this race. It's going to be grueling.
Well, Lewis there with the hands head support device going on. And would he have made any special accommodation to boost that one side of his head and the neck muscles that he has there to accommodate the requirements of an anti-clockwise circuit?
You know, in training, Steve, the guys will actually work a little bit along that, just trying to make sure that the neck muscles are even on both sides. But predominantly because the way that the calendar runs and the way that most of the circuits go around clockwise, your neck is stronger on one side. It's part and parcel. That's why it is a little bit difficult for the guys when they turn up on an anti-clockwise circuit, and it will catch some of the guys out, especially some of the guys at the back of the grid.
The other element is the heat. It affects everyone. But this is possibly going to be the hottest Formula One race he's ever taken part in, even including Malaysia.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's not only going to be hot for the drivers, but also very difficult for the cars as well. The teams are having a little bit of a struggle on some of the calling, and that can lead to reliability problems, as we've seen in the past.
The Ferrari's just heading down the pit lane, but Lewis Hamilton taking his time, and when he arrives out there on the grid, well, the main thing is to get out of the sun, isn't it?
Definitely. He wants to keep out the heat, keep himself hydrated. So he's got his trainer with him. But Lewis comes in, he looks very relaxed. He shakes hands with everybody in the garage here, and he's got one thing on his mind, and that's getting into turn one first and trying to win this race.
OK, we'll leave Lewis to the final preparations. We'll join them all out there on the grid in a few minutes' time. Martin Brundle back with us, of course. We'll be with Martin for another of his grid walks. And we'll also be hearing from Lewis Hamilton, not on pressures that he's going to feel in that cockpit today, but on the pressures that he's feeling in his personal life at the moment.
The more and more they keep doing that and bullying me with the paparazzi and this stuff in the papers, it's going to just drive me out the country. And, you know, it's getting harder and harder for me to stay in the UK as it is, but it would just force me out. You know, I need to have to go somewhere where I don't get abused, and if that's the case, then it'd be a shame.
We're at Istanbul Park in the final build-up to this Formula 1 Turkish Grand Prix. The grid is assembling and we'll be out there with Martin Brundle shortly. Felipe Massa on pole position, Kimi Raikkonen on row 2. Lewis Hamilton on the front row again, but life not completely perfect for the World Championship leader. In Hungary he might have won, but he learned some tough lessons about teamwork and team politics, and his family had to absorb them as well. And then came some much-needed holiday, but the problems continued for Lewis. He's had some strong things to say about intrusion into his life away from the circuit.
You know, I went on holiday, I had a great time, and bearing in mind the fact that I won the last race, it's always good to sort of sleep on. And just knowing that coming back, I'm still in the World Championship. There's still 6 races to go, but I'm in a good position. So I was very, very relaxed and really had the best time I've ever had, apart from some of the media sort of shouts that they were doing.
Yeah, we were following your holiday quite closely in the papers, I'm afraid, and some of that press coverage got a bit irritating, didn't it?
It did, and you know, I'm on holiday, and I got there, I think I was there a day, and in Saint-Tropez, and we went to the beach, and obviously I have to be aware of the cameras around, and I got back to the boat, and there was, you know, all 13 of us with my boss's family, which was great. There was all 13 of us chucking each other in, and then they've taken pictures and made it seem as if there's something going on between the boss's daughter. And, you know, that just, I don't like stirrers, and if something's going on, then okay. But I should be, supposedly I'm dating 4 different women at the moment. But, you know, just to set things straight, you know, with my ex, we're still very, very good friends. At the beginning of the season, I knew I was going to be away for a lot of the year, and she was only in the UK for me. So I said, okay, why don't you go back and see your family for a while? And she did. She was enjoying it, and she said, look, I want to start my career, and the same for me. You know, I wanted to make sure I was 100% focused for this job. So it was a real mutual decision, and it's still, you know, it's difficult for us. And when they keep on bringing it back up in the papers, it makes it tough. But you never know. You know, I'm only 22. In the future, we might get back together. But you know, I'm currently not dating or seeing any women, and I need to make that clear. I got back from holiday on Monday. I went to the cinema with my best friend, or one of my best friends, Jeff, and his fiancée, and my friend Mohammed. I came out. They've taken the picture, and they've said that I'm dating his girlfriend now, and he just laughed about it. But you know, it's upsetting because it's not me, and you know, I'm not living the Playboy life. They're all talking about having a British sensation and having a British world champion in Formula 1, which I'm doing my best to do, and I'm proud to represent my country. But there's nothing worse than people in the country trying to bring you down and try to show a different, or trying to ruin your image and reputation. So, you know, please just, I mean, it's not really going to make a huge difference, but, you know, at the end of the day, the more and more they keep doing that and bullying me with the paparazzi and this stuff in the papers, it's going to just drive me out of the country, and, you know, it's getting harder and harder for me to stay in the UK as it is. But it would just force me out, you know. I need to have to go somewhere where I don't get abused, and if that's the case, then it'd be a shame.
Well, we wish him well in that respect. Lewis dealing with the pressures and problems of sporting success in his own forthright way. And hopefully with the situation within the team, that's calmed down as well. That's the message that everyone at McLaren is certainly giving here. And that relations with his teammate Fernando Alonso are improving. It seems they've got equality, they've got unity. But the message from Alonso and Hamilton in the current television commercial, they've also got competition.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Better. Playback video.
And with my teammate, with Luis, and we are having some fun doing this commercial. All the sports, you know, you need competition, and Formula 1 is the same. So we are a very competitive people in the car and outside the car as well in our normal life. So.
Take 25. I think I'm the most competitive person I know, at least. I compete in everything. I remember when I was a little kid, I was always rushing and racing my dad to do something, or I'm always racing my brother to beat him at something. So it's definitely a part of my character and my personality. Where are you from?
London.
You're from London? Yeah.
Action! Keep it light.
Hamilton.
Anything you can wear, I can wear better. In what you wear, I look better than you. In my coat? In your vest. In my shoe. In your hat. No, you can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
That's a wrap.
Congratulations for joining this grid today. If you're watching this race live, it should be a stunner. 6 races to go in the World Championship. 4 drivers can take the title, and they're in the first 4 positions on the grid. If you're recording it, well, we're jolly pleased to have you along as well. Let's see if we can catch a word with Lewis Hamilton, chilling out under the umbrella here. Lewis, it'll be the first time we've had a chance to talk to you just before you put your skid lid on and go racing. 5 million people there want to know what goes through your mind right now.
I'm pretty relaxed, actually. I'm thinking about what Mercedes car I could ask for next, actually. Just being relaxed. It's really important here. Obviously, it's extremely hard to keep your heart rate down. And let me say a big shout out to all my family back there. I know you're all watching, and all the supporters. I know I haven't been talking to you for a while. It's just because I don't really like Martin, so...
Good stuff. Now, do you look around you on the grid and think, OK, right, Massa, his strengths, his weaknesses, the Ferrari, or do you just go racing your own race?
Yeah, well, I think you have to have a very open mind, but obviously the Ferraris are extremely quick, especially off the line, and they're both on the clean side. So what's important for me is to try and cover my position. If I get a good start, then obviously I'll challenge for the first corner, but if not, then it's the first lap is going to be extremely important. Otherwise, I just have to stick up behind him, and I feel I'm going longer than him, so fingers crossed that's the case.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, hot afternoon. Do you feel the need you've got to keep an eye on Fernando in your mirrors as well, or can you trust him?
It's not a case of can you trust him or not, but he's very, very quick and he's quite aggressive on the track, so I'm just going to be looking forward. Hopefully he won't really come into the equation, but you never know what's going to happen. But fingers crossed, I'm looking forward to the race. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Right, well, really, thanks very much for talking to us. Steve.
Lewis Hamilton surviving another big Formula One challenge, his first grid interview with Martin Brundle. We'll be back down there very shortly. Let's give you first of all a chance as Lewis looks for some shade at our ITV F1 competition.
We're offering you the chance to attend the famous Goodwood Revival next weekend, where you can experience the golden age of Grand Prix racing and have the chance to mingle with famous faces from motorsport past and present. You'll have 2 Revival tickets for all 3 days, 2 nights hotel accommodation and full VIP hospitality, including paddock access and grandstand viewing. You'll also have a total of £500 to get your period costume. Plus, you'll be given an unforgettable ride around the Goodwood Motor Circuit on Saturday morning in an historic car driven by Sir Stirling Moss. To be in with a chance of winning this great prize, just answer this simple question. What is a trilby? Is it A, a hat, B, a coat, or C, a scarf? The number to call is 0901 293 2020 or text F1 plus your answer A, B or C to 63337. Calls cost £1 per entry from a BT landline. Calls from other networks and mobiles may be higher. Text will cost £1 plus the standard network rate. Entrants must be 18 or over. Cable and satellite viewers can press the red button, and lines close at 6 p.m. this Tuesday. Well, I'm down on the grid now with Heikki Kovalainen, who lines up 7th alongside your old GP2 sparring partner, Nico Rosberg. He was so angry that you pipped him by just a 10th yesterday. Is he the man you're going to be battling against in the race?
Probably, yeah. I'm sure I won't, let him go, and he won't let me go either. So for sure. But I will also try to look if I can race the BMWs. I will try to do maximum, to stay with them. And in any case, it's a good starting position for a good race.
How realistic a prospect is it to beat the BMWs today?
I don't know, maybe not very realistic, but I came from 22nd to 4th in Canada, so, anything can happen.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Heikki Kovalainen, who out-qualified his Renault teammate Fisichella by a significant margin. He's the only non-McLaren driver to finish every race in the season so far, and he's another of those drivers, Mark Blundell, the generation of the future that's proving so much about the talent that we're going to see over forthcoming years.
Definitely, and I think GP2 has been a great feeder series for so many of these guys, Rosberg, Kovalainen, Lewis Hamilton. And Kovalainen is definitely a star of the future. Had a rough start to this season, but he's coming on strong and now qualifying his teammate Fisichella with a lot more experience.
And on row 3, of course, we've also got Robert Kubica, who Lewis Hamilton identifies as his big challenger in seasons to come, and he's out-qualified his BMW teammate Nick Heidfeld.
Both those guys have been signed up for next year again by BMW, and I think they've got a great stable of talent there. Definitely Kubica has got a huge amount more to come.
Okay, certain formalities being observed before the start here. I wonder what formalities Ted's observing right now.
Well, a formality that I'm very happy to carry out, Steve, is found Bo Derek on the grid. You look lovely. How are you enjoying your Turkish Istanbul Grand Prix experience?
I just feel like the luckiest girl in the world right now. No place I'd rather be. This is fabulous.
You've been to many of these events before. I saw you were on the big boat last night.
Yes, and I just love F1. I think it's the ultimate. Listen, oh, it's fantastic.
It's a good crowd. Who are your favourite drivers?
Fast cars and fast horses.
Which drivers do you like the look of then?
Oh, I like them all. I love the sport, honestly.
Okay. Well, good to see you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Bo Derek not going into too much detail there about her background knowledge of Formula One. Felipe Massa still out there on the grid alongside his pole position spot and looking very relaxed.
He does look relaxed. You can see he's got the towel around him, which is a wet towel, just to try and keep his body temperature down. As Lewis Hamilton said earlier, talking to Martin, he's trying to keep his heart rate low. All of the guys are trying to make sure they keep as much energy as possible until the race starts. And there's been a lot of studies done, Steve, and the driver's heart rate can sometimes reach over 200 heartbeats per minute as they get off the line there. So there's a lot of energy being used, and it's something that the guys have to try and learn as they go along.
He's made the odd mistake, Massa. He's had the odd bit of bad fortune over recent races, but he's got some consistency about him. 5th pole position this season. He's won from pole position on 4 occasions as well.
He has indeed, and I think he's the kind of guy who really likes to start from the front, and when he's there, he leads very well. And, when he was in Hungary, he had a tough race, didn't really cut through the field as much as we expected. This, of course, is where he won his first event last year, and that will stand him in good stead.
Sakon Yamamoto, a man on the back row of the grid. That's a man that Jenson Button has got to get past.
Yes, he has indeed. But I think Jenson will have a few more problems to think about, and it would be interesting to see whether they're starting on the grid or actually from the pit lane to see what strategy Honda are going to take.
Yes, very unfortunate, but both Jenson and Rubens Barrichello had to change their relatively new Honda engines. And Sakon Yamamoto, the Spiker driver, just behind his teammate Adrian Sutil. Bernie Eccleston out there on the grid as ever, and so too is Louise Goodman. We heard from her earlier, and she's down with Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, and unfortunately Rubens Barrichello right down at the back of the grid after the engine penalty yesterday. Been another tough weekend for you, hasn't it?
Well, I thought Hungary was bad, but the car seems a little bit better here. I came in this morning and then they told me about the engine. It's a tough moment going on, so I just hope to have fun, and I think a good time must come because the team is working very hard.
Pretty easy to overtake here, though, unlike Hungary. So do you think you are going to be able to make some progress through the field?
It's easy when you have the straight line speed, and we don't at the moment. But I love this track, and I made a lot of passes last year, and I think that is a probability. So I hope I have to go for it.
Keep our fingers crossed. Cheers, Ruby.
There's Lewis keeping in the shade. David Coulthard is back on row 7. Let's talk about the other British driver in the field. We heard from him earlier, Anthony Davidson, so outstanding in qualifying yesterday in the Super Aguri. What would it mean to him if he could get that into the top 10 today?
I think it'd be a great result and well deserved after what he did in qualifying. And his qualifying lap was outstanding. To actually get that car into P11, it was great, and he was only a smidgen off of being in the top 10. But he really needs to have a big race result just to make sure that his credibility is there for the rest of the season and for the rest of next year. And hopefully he's going to be around next year with Super Aguri. But there's a lot of rumours floating around with financial problems with that team at this point.
Yeah, he has impressed a lot of people. There aren't many openings on the grid for future drives, but a few team managers might be looking at him quite closely.
I think they will, and he's done a lot of mileage in the Honda team with the test driver role, and he's done a great job with Super Aguri there. He's well deserving of a place in Formula 1, that's for sure.
We heard from Bernie Eccleston how close he is to securing an Indian Grand Prix in seasons to come. He's getting even closer by the looks of it out there on the grid. So we keep an eye out for Anthony Davidson during the course of this Turkish Grand Prix, and we'll keep an eye out for everything that's happening at the front of the field as well, because this Turkish Grand Prix is almost upon us. We've had a far calmer build-up after all the drama ahead of the last round in Hungary, but this promises to be a very different race to the procession that Lewis Hamilton led home with coolness and authority 3 weeks ago. It's a circuit, this one, that rewards the fit, the strong, the aggressive and the brave. The Turkish Grand Prix is moments away.